Good morning, everyone. I'm Elina, the author of the article entitled The Impact of Artificial Intelligence on Writing and Speaking Practices Among EMI and ESL Students, Sociolinguistic and Pragmatic Perspectives. So, as we all know, even though artificial intelligence has penetrated into our lifestyle just a few years ago, it has already managed to have important and tangible impacts on our life. Different domains and different dimensions, such as communication, discourse, speech, and text production. So, the central question of my research is whether AI functions primarily as a scaffold that promotes language development, as supported by the theory of Vygotsky, or it's a compensatory mechanism that may inhibit deeper cognitive as well as linguistic processing, as argued by Stepanyan. So the article consists of four main sections. The first section examines whether AI reassigns and relocates communicative power and reshapes the processes of self-representation in everyday written language, including also academic voice, etc. So the second section explores the measurable effects of AI-assisted writing on sentence structure, sentence length, lexical efficiency, and so on. In the third section, the paper investigates the issue of cognitive offloading. So the paper consists of four main sections. The first section examines how AI reassigns and relocates communicative power and reshapes the processes of self-representation, academic voice in everyday written language. The second section explores the measurable effects of AI-assisted writing on sentence structure, sentence length, lexical efficiency. The third section of the paper investigates such issues as cognitive offloading and eventual implications of delegating linguistic decision-making to machine systems. And the last section, the fourth section, the fourth part of the study focuses mainly on learners in English medium instruction and English as a second language, international students. So students for whom actually AI may simultaneously function as a cognitive scaffold, but at the same time as a potential substitute for the development of linguistic competence. So from a sociolinguistic perspective, AI does change the way language is produced, generated, and identities built and expressed. So, human communication, according to the theory of Giles, asymmetrical accommodation, the theory of asymmetrical accommodation, human communication is based on mutual accommodation where speakers adjust their language to one another, while human AI interaction communication does omit this factor. So, in this case, this balance is very often disrupted. And it's caused by the fact that users very often simplify their language, limit their vocabulary, adapt their style and manner of speech or communication in order to be perceived better by a machine or to fit the capabilities of the machine, of a system, while the system itself operates within very fixed parameters. And research on AI-generated reply suggestions demonstrates that these tools often increase positivity and politeness. Yes, they do. But at the same time, they reduce variation in word choice and sentence structure and sentence length. As more people rely on AI-generated templates, written communication becomes very standardized. We can see that every day in our communication. And gradually reduced. It becomes very concise, often fluent, socially appropriate, however, reduced in distinctive elements of individual voice and style, including personal rhythm, idiomatic expressions, lexical preferences, and so on and so on. And this, of course, raises an important sociolinguistic concern, an issue. AI is not simply assisting communication, it is increasingly shaping the norms through which communication occurs, actually. So, as a result, linguistic diversity may become very reduced, and communicative power may become concentrated in the hands of the institutions and organizations that design and deploy these systems, which is a very dangerous thing. So, the second perspective examines the sentence structure and lexical conciseness in terms of course, AI and human interaction. So, recent research demonstrates that AI assisted writing tools consistently produce shorter, more compact, more standardized text. And studies comparing original text with AI modified versions reveal a clear tendency towards simplified sentence structure, direct wording, and very reduced lexical repetition. For example, both ChatGPT and Grammarly frequently remove redundant expressions and replace longer constructions with shorter, more concise alternatives. This, of course, on its turn, helps producing text that is clearer and seems more efficient and more concise. However, evidence suggests that these systems prioritize highly textual conciseness and structural simplification over genuine communication, genuine communicative improvement, and personal voice. So, while conciseness is often beneficial, excessive reliance on AI may reduce stylistic diversity and rhetorical flexibility noticeably. And academic writing requires more than just conciseness and grammatical correctness and efficiency. It also requires the ability to adapt language to different audiences, disciplines, communicative purposes, and have a genuine voice. Therefore, the widespread use of AI may, in fact, gradually encourage more homogeneous forms of expressions. The third perspective focuses on cognitive offloading and critical thinking. So, a particular important concern is whether AI changes not only what students write, but also how they think. And I made a very important quote by Sarkar, who describes this phenomenon through the metaphor of becoming intellectual tourists in our own work, which is deeply saddening, but it has a very important message that carries throughout the whole idea of Sarkar. So instead of inhabiting ideas and constructing them through language, individuals increasingly start just to visit their own ideas or ideas that are created by AI systems and have been already organized and, built for them to the perfection by some machines. And research indicates that groups working with AI often generate a narrower range of ideas, phenomenon described as mechanized convergence. Moreover, some surveys and research show that users frequently invest less effort in critical reasoning when AI performs part of the intellectual work rather than when they do it themselves, of course. So, this finding is especially relevant for language learners, students who lack confidence in their English abilities and are often more likely to rely heavily on AI generated text rather than the ones whose mother tongue is English, of course. So, studies also suggest that individuals remember much less of what they write when AI generates substantial portions of text for them rather than when they do it themselves. And there is a similar pattern between readers. So, students who rely on large language models for reading assistance, for example, may demonstrate lower comprehension and retention of information than those who engage directly with the text. And from a second language acquisition perspective, this issue is crucial. It's become vital, as Swain argued that language development occurs when learners actively produce language, confront linguistic gaps, attempt to solve communicative problems, face the challenges of communicative problems, and go throughout them and produce text and ideas themselves. So if these processes are delegated to AI or skipped because of AI, then important opportunities for linguistic growth may be highly reduced. And in this case, the final perspective examines cognitive, pragmatic, and sociolinguistic dimensions of AI use among EMI and ESL students. So for multilingual students, AI can provide significant support. Writing in a second language places considerable demands on working memory because learners must simultaneously manage vocabulary selection, grammar, organization of sentence structure, content, ideas, and everything at the same time in a language that is not their own mother tongue, which is a very difficult task. So AI tools can reduce some of this burden, some of this cognitive load, allowing students to focus more attention on conceptual and rhetorical concerns. However, these benefits are full of risks, as pragmatic competence, the ability to adapt language to context, audience, the communicative purpose, is one of the most challenging aspects of second language development, which in this case is often skipped. So AI can generate text that follows academic conventions, yes. It appears highly professional and correct, yes. But the deeper reasoning behind those conventions, behind those rules, often remains hidden from and very limited from the students, from the user, from the learner. So students may produce grammatically accurate and academically acceptable texts without fully understanding the communicative choices involved. And from a sociolinguistic perspective, the development of academic voice is equally important. Academic writing is not simply the transmission of information. It is the construction of an genuine identity within a scholarly community. So for ESL and EMI students, developing a recognizable academic voice represents both linguistic growth and social participation in the community they are involved with learning and other tasks such as language acquisition or cultural awareness and so on. So the concern is that the widespread use of AI may contribute to the intellectual and linguistic homogenization, as students repeatedly rely on AI generated formulations, tags. Their writing gradually becomes narrower and more standardized, and it highly lacks distinctive voice, cultural awareness, perspective, individual pattern, individual voice, expression, and it becomes less visible in academic discourse. So in conclusion, I will mention that AI is no longer actually an external support mechanism, an external aid to language production. It has become an active participant in our writing and speaking processes, especially for second language learners. And the evidence indicates actually that AI can function. It can really function both as a scaffold and as a substitute. It can reduce cognitive load, support language production, facilitate academic communication. At the same time, excessive reliance on AI may weaken critical thinking, reduce productive cognitive effort, limit opportunities for language acquisition, and can contribute, of course, to linguistic homogenization. So we have a pedagogical challenge here, which is not whether AI should be used in language learning settings or not, but how it should be used, the way we should use it. So educational practices should preserve productive cognitive effort and encourage learners to remain active authors rather than passive editors of machine-generated ideas and texts. And when integrated thoughtfully, AI can really become a supportive mechanism to language development, but when used uncritically, it risks replacing some of very fundamental processes through which language, knowledge, and academic identity is developed and built. Thank you for your attention.